Hey all, it's WebCamParrot, here to talk about DC's biggest con artist, the Corruptor, the Prince of Lies himself, Neron. Now, it's been a while since I did a video, and I have to say, it's good to be back, and I think it's fitting that I would return to talk about one of my favourite villains. Now, I think there's a lot more to Neron than most DC fans might be aware of. It's not something that everyone will agree with, but I think I have a good case for Neron being something far more sinister than just the King of Hell or some other demon. I'll be going over every single Neron appearance and covering the major story points and feats that he performs in them. Neron's first appearance was in Underworld Unleashed, an event from 1995. This was a huge and almost unique event in DC Comics history, and I would be here for ages vocally listing every single one of the roughly 50 tie-in issues from various lines. So I'll just have a list here on the screen for you guys so that you know what I'm talking about going forwards. What makes it, and Neron in general, so unique is that the Prince of Lies directly interacts with and affects the comic lines of a vast array of different heroes in a way that no other villain really has. This makes Neron's dark dealings and plots feel like an actual part of the DC universe, not just some rotating villain of the week. Characters like Blue Devil and the Trickster would be left permanently changed by this event, for good and bad. The event starts with the Rogues having accepted a deal from Kadabra, who had been working as a middleman for a higher being. They were told that in return for their actions, they would be forever remembered as the greatest villains of their era, and all they had to do to get it was raise a little hell on Earth. They simultaneously targeted an arms depot, a nuclear reactor, a dormant volcano, an oil field, and a chemical dump. Each of these explosions was larger than any of the Rogues expected, however, and they were obliterated as their souls were claimed. This event unleashed the greatest evil that the world would ever know, as Neron could now walk the Earth. Neron begins to corrupt the right people in the right places, spreading just the right amount of chaos to cause enough commotion and terror to cause a riot at Belrev prison, which eventually leads to the escape of every convict being held there. It's after this breakout that we see Rainbow Raider and the Trickster talking about a magic candle that the former received from seemingly nowhere, and that when lit at midnight, it would open the door to fame and fortune. Trickster, tired of being a minor villain and seeing what happened to the Rogues Gallery, has committed himself to taking the next big opportunity he is offered, and so steals the candle from Rainbow Raider, replacing it with a rubber chicken without him noticing. He then lights the candle at midnight and is brought to a strange realm filled to the brim with villains from all over the Earth, and standing there to meet them all is none other than Neron himself in his first ever appearance. Even big names like Cersei, Lex Luthor, and the Joker seem to be there, and it's clarified that the name Neron itself comes from the number of the beast, 666, that he is the Devil. Devil being a title in DC that seems to be reserved only for the King of Hell. Neron then makes the gathered villains an offer. The power to achieve their greatest desires and ambitions in exchange for their souls. Most of the villains at least considered this deal, but Mongol took great offense to it, immediately attacking Neron, only to be brutally killed by the King of Lies, as Neron tears the souls from his body by force, with Neron even commenting that Mongol's successes against Superman and Hal Jordan in the past did not impress him. Some villains like the Riddler would reject Neron's offers and be banished from his realm back to Earth, but far more of these villains began to accept deals after this, including Blockbuster, who was granted his intelligence back. Others were granted altered bodies or enhanced abilities. Metallo in particular was given the power to control all technology near him, which he can even use to recreate his body if necessary. Neron is again called the Devil himself by Trickster. Trickster ends up being the only villain to not be offered a deal by Neron, who then asks him to watch over his inner council of Lex Luthor, Joker, Cersei, Abracadabra, and Dr. Polaris, whilst he attempts to corrupt other souls. Of course, this inner council is not blind to this, and begins to pressure Trickster for information, viewing him as Neron's right-hand man. Trickster ultimately reveals that Neron's power source is the huge jar of souls he has been collecting. Whilst this is going on, Neron is having a conversation with Wally West, where he claims to be capable of bringing back Barry Allen in exchange for Wally's soul. Wally believes this to be an illusion, however, and denies Neron, who then vanishes in a puff of green smoke. Neron also offers a similar deal to Batman, telling him that he would revive Jason Todd for him, but much like Wally, Bruce reluctantly and dejectedly turns him down. He would confront Guy Gardner, telling him that he is a diverter of fate, and that his power is great, but that it depends on the webs of time being woven just the right way. Neron tells Guy that Jon Stewart was supposed to die at some point in the past, but because of Exton's meddling with time, this never happened, and as a result, many terrible things occurred, including the destruction of Coast City. Neron tells Guy Gardner that he will send him into the past, and all he must do is kill Jon Stewart, which he does agree to do. Gorilla Grodd, with his intelligence regained thanks to a deal he already made with Neron, would be visited by Neron again, offering him yet another deal, trading his immortal soul for the location of an artifact that grants its owner rulership over Gorilla City. This is an artifact that the extremely intelligent and advanced gorilla people have been unable to find for many years, and yet Neron has no problem giving this information to Grodd. In another instance, we see that Neron is interested in the soul of the Ray, but has some kind of understanding with Vandal Savage that prevents him from taking it by trickery. Vandal offers him his own soul, but Neron tells him that his soul is black and tasteless. It's the corruption of innocence that makes these deals enticing for Neron, and Vandal has no innocence left. So Vandal instead offers him the soul of Atomic Skull, which Neron accepts, increasing Atomic Skull's power tenfold in the process, and giving him the ability to fly. This doesn't stop Neron from attempting to make a deal with Ray, however, even using a disguise and promising to make it so that his current target, Death Mask, had never existed at all. Neron, in order to make this deal without trickery, reveals his true self to the Ray, calling himself the Lord of Evil, of Chaos, that he existed before this world, and that he will exist beyond the mortal plane's destruction, and that mankind has always feared him. The Ray would accept this deal. Shadow Thief would also make a deal with Neron, calling himself the Devil this time. Neron granted him the power he asked for, knowing that it would be too much for him, driving him mad. Captain Marvel and Wally West together would eventually stop Shadow Thief's rampage, however. Neron was also capable of separating Carol Ferris from Star Sapphire in return for Star Sapphire's baby, and transformed Killer Moth into the horrific monster that he had always wanted to be. During one of Lobo's rampages, Lobo's target would make a deal with the Prince of Lies to be given the powers of a supervillain, subsequently turning him into the Bugmeister, granting him the power of insects and the ability to control them. These powers proved effective against Lobo for a while, but eventually weren't enough to stop Lobo, and Bugmeister was defeated. Neron would then approach Lobo himself, who agrees to trade his soul for anything he desires. Power, riches, anything. Lobo asks for Neron's soul in return for his own, fair trade and all, and the Prince of Lies is surprised by this offer, telling Neron that he does not have a soul to trade. This makes Lobo mad, calling him a white-haired evil freak welching on our deal, and leaves. Even Apocalypse was corrupted by Neron in this storyline, as he manipulates each of the various factions into a bloody war against each other in Darkseid's absence. Oracle would also be offered a deal, the offer of repairing her injuries in exchange for becoming his archivist. But Barbara knew better. Her research had drawn her to a name that kept appearing in ancient texts. This name was Neron, the ultimate evil, the great beast, and so she refused his offer. In another tie-in comic, Neron empowers Killer Frost, giving her the power to reduce objects to absolute zero in a few seconds, and is again referred to as Satan. Eventually, Neron's corruption spread further, corrupting the Green and threatening all of creation. Even the Spectre Force itself would fall to Neron's corruption, as it made a deal not to interfere with him in exchange for being freed of Jim Corrigan's influence, leaving the Spectre hostless. The Spectre Force ended up getting the bad end of this deal as well, however, as it allowed Neron to manipulate it, forcing it to become his lapdog and heir apparent to Hell. The Spectre Force attempted to rebel, but this deal left him powerless to fight back. Alan Scott attempted to take on Neron and was easily defeated, becoming nothing but a macabre piece of jewellery for the Prince of Lies. Neron would only continue his efforts as he turned former ally of Kyle Rayner, Paul, into purgatory, making a deal with him to fix his disability in exchange for killing Kyle. Mr. Freeze would also be empowered by Neron, and they would both confront Kyle Rayner, only to both be defeated by him. Neron decides to take matters into his own hands, however, easily beating down Kyle and leaving him badly injured. Green Lantern would later claim that he had never faced power like Neron's before, which includes powerhouses like Parallax, Hal Jordan, and Extant. Another notable deal occurred between the hero Blue Devil and Neron, who promised the former a life of fame in exchange for destroying one small substation. Blue Devil was careful to make sure that no one would get hurt, but unbeknownst to him, the destruction of this exact electrical substation would result in an accident that would kill his partner, Marla Bloom. Throughout all this, you might be wondering, what is it that Neron hopes to achieve exactly? If you were paying careful attention earlier, you would have noticed several clues in the scans I used as to what his plan is. Neron wants to corrupt a pure soul, a soul full of innocence, because those are the souls most valuable to him. And who has a purer soul than Superman, who has been conspicuously missing off-planet during this entire event? The Justice League and a bunch of other heroes come to the conclusion that Neron has Superman imprisoned in Hell itself, and so they all resolve themselves to go into Hell and save him. Trickster, however, appears to know more, and seems to think that he is the only one capable of stopping Neron now. Satanus, at the mercy of Neron, seems to realise that he stands no chance against him, and instead gives up his sister Blaze. She is understandably annoyed by this, and tells him that with their powers together, perhaps they would have stood a chance against the Prince of Lies. Satanus says that these are empty words, however, that cannot hurt Neron, but that there is a word that when spoken would give him pause. And as a result, both of them are annihilated by Neron's power, but the Trickster seems to have taken notice of the information that was traded here. The heroes finally arrive to challenge Neron, with Blue Devil quickly going down first, seemingly turned to stone by Neron's power. The rest of them are corrupted, and Trickster reveals to the audience that Neron was never after Superman at all, that it was Captain Marvel's soul he wanted the whole time. The corruption that the heroes just suffered causes them to turn on Captain Marvel, who is the only one who seems to remain sane. He's able to somehow get away from them, however, and Trickster reveals to him the information that he overheard Satanus say earlier, that there is one word spoken in this place that might give Neron pause. Billy takes a risk and speaks the magic word Shazam, breaking the other heroes out of Neron's corrupting grasp. These heroes try to gang up on Neron and are easily defeated by him, but whilst this is going on, Trickster and Captain Marvel have been plotting together again, and Billy approaches Neron with an offer, and the Prince of Lies just cannot resist a good deal. Billy offers his soul for Earth's freedom and the release of his friends. A soul given so altruistically, so purely, is all it takes to ensure Neron's undoing, as such an act is like poison to him, ultimately leading to his defeat, leaving the Trickster as the true hero and the one responsible for defeating Neron all along. The next time Neron would appear was in The Flash Volume 2, issues 127 to 129 from 1997, in a storyline called Hell to Pay. Wally West begins to notice a problem when the famous Flash Rogues Gallery returns, the same rogues that died and had their souls taken by Neron in Underworld Unleashed. Only now they seem to be different, far more violent and capable of regenerating their entire bodies from even extreme injury. Wally, unable to defeat these villains, quickly comes to the reasonable conclusion that Neron is behind this. Wally visits the Trickster for some advice, but it seems like Mirror Master has got to him already, so he decides to confront Neron directly using one of his green candles that he was able to get a hold of from his friend who never used one during Underworld Unleashed. Upon arriving in Hell, Wally not only discovers that Neron was in fact behind these events, but that even Wally using his green candle was a contingency that he had planned for way back in Underworld Unleashed, knowing that Wally would later get the candle from his friend and use it. Neron gives a weakened Jay Garrick to Wally and sends him back to Earth, as he has kept Jay Garrick prisoned here for quite some time. Once there, Wally remarks that he is willing to make a deal with Neron, but only as a last resort. In the last panel, we see Linda holding the candle with her own plans for dealing with the situation. Wally attempts to stop the rogues again, but ultimately returns to Hell to make a deal with Neron. However, strangely, the demon does not want Wally's soul. He wants something far more precious to him. He wants Wally's love for Linda, calling it a beacon that burns through time and space, a pure love rarely seen in creation, and it annoys Neron and he wants it to stop. Wally agrees and returns home, no longer feeling any love for Linda. As it turns out, however, Linda also went to see Neron behind Wally's back, trading her love for him in exchange for the King of Hell agreeing to leave Wally's soul alone. However, this deal backfires on them, as the bodies of the rogues were only vehicles for far more powerful demons now inadvertently released by Wally's deal. The Justice League turns up to support Wally, but everyone except Superman has their asses handed to them by the demons. And it's no surprise, because Neron has somehow arranged for these demons to be powered by the Speed Force, draining it off the Flash as he fights them, thanks to a connection that he now has with Wally's powers as he owns the love between him and Linda. Neron has heard that the Speed Force leads to a Valhalla, a heaven of sorts, and plans to go through, but is stopped by something. Neron is being corrupted by the very love that he stole from Wally and Linda. Love is one of Neron's only weaknesses, and he begs for them to take it back from him. They agree, but only on the grounds that Neron fixes all of the damage he has caused. The Prince of Lies reluctantly agrees and repairs everything in a display of power that shocks even Wally West, as the city is repaired faster than even he can keep track of. Neron promises to get his revenge on Wally another day, and returns to his realm. This is kind of a consistent thing you'll notice with Neron. He really loves to promise that he'll get revenge, but then never does, for whatever reason. This is like a promise he never fulfills, and he does it all the time, but you know, whatever. Neron would next appear in Wonder Woman Volume 2, issues 124 and 125 from 1997. In this storyline, Neron captures both Wonder Woman and Artemis, keeping them in cages in Hell. He also exploits a weakness to drain Diana of her powers. Not only this, but he also has Etrigan under his thumb after separating him from Jason Blood. Neron chastises Etrigan for his rhyming, saying that he regrets ever creating the rhyming cast in the first place. Wonder Woman tells Neron that Etrigan has been rhyming long before he turned up, but Neron is far older than she realizes. His presence has been felt since the first sin, and wherever there is evil to be found throughout creation, there too will you find the hand of Neron. This description is interesting to me because this isn't the only time that the snake in the Garden of Eden is implied to be Neron, even though in Lucifer 2000 it's kind of implied that Lucifer fulfilled that role at one point as well. Etrigan attempts to challenge Neron and is struck down by him in one blow. Then, with but a tiny fraction of his power, he also one-shots Wonder Woman. However, the arrival of Donna Troy seems to inexplicably weaken him, and that combined with Silver, another weakness of demons, is enough to strike Neron down so they can escape. However, as a last retributive act, he kills Wonder Woman, incinerating her soul entirely and damaging her so badly that even the Justice League are incapable of bringing her back. We would next see Neron in JLA Volume 1, Issues 6 and 7, and JLA Paradise Lost from 1997 to 1998. This storyline begins with an incredibly powerful archangel known as Asmodel, the King Angel of the Bull Host, invading Earth. Now, Asmodel doesn't have enough appearances to be worth his own video, but he does share all of his appearances with Neron, so consider this one a double, because we're going to cover him in this video as well. As this invasion is happening, Neron causes the moon to destabilize and fall to the Earth, separating the attention of the Justice League. And on top of this, Wally West is left trapped in the teleporter, constantly being shifted between San Francisco and the moon with no way to escape. Asmodel has come to Earth to get rid of Zoriel, to prevent him from revealing his plans, as the Angel plans to succeed where Lucifer first failed. The Justice League are on the ropes against Asmodel, and once again, it's up to Superman to resolve things. He uses his Superman Blue powers to return the Earth and the Moon to their rightful place by affecting the magnetic poles of the two celestial objects, then flies over to Wally West, freeing him from the teleporter using his powers, leaving the Flash baffled at how he had managed it, and then finally making his way to Earth to beat down Asmodel as well. With Asmodel taking a beating from Superman and the rest of the League supporting him, they were able to repel the invasion, forcing the King Angel and his army to retreat back to heaven. Later, we see him convening with Neron in Hell, and it's revealed that they have been working together. Their combined legions plan to attack heaven together and overthrow the Presence, making Asmodel God. Using a flesh suit, Asmodel heads to the Justice League moonbase and thoroughly beats down Martian Manhunter. Don't laugh, he looks like a little kid, but don't laugh. It's really good. It's just a strong flesh suit. Don't laugh, it's strong, I swear. No. He looks like a little kid, I know. Makes sense within the context of the story, okay? You're not allowed to laugh. It's explained in the story, it makes sense, okay. Zoriel seeks the aid of an angel known as Michael to help with this, which might be Michael Demiurgos, but considering he's chain-smoking, looks nothing like Michael, and what happens next, I doubt it, as Asmodel puts the absolute beatdown on both Michael and Zoriel, even whilst weakened and in his flesh suit. In terms of authority and importance, Asmodel should be up there with Michael Demiurgos. He is the most feared general in the Pax Day. But he wouldn't just ragdoll Michael so easily either, especially not weakened like this. In a last desperate move, Zoriel is able to use a special anti-angel ability to destroy the flesh suit and send Asmodel's presence back to heaven. Not long after this, Neron and Asmodel begin their assault, and the Second War in Heaven begins. Zoriel tries to confront them, and Asmodel reveals to him that Neron has his beloved captured and in hell. As the battle seems won for the traitors, Asmodel approaches the Seventh Heaven and challenges the Presence himself, only for Zoriel to arrive and chastise the other angel. He tells Asmodel that the Presence does not sit atop the Seventh Heaven. He is everywhere and nowhere. It's at this moment that the Presence acts against Asmodel, preventing him from harming Zoriel. The King Angel calls for Neron's help, who only grins at him and claims that he prefers not to ally himself with the damned. The whole situation has been subtly engineered by Neron to corrupt Asmodel and make him fall to evil, because that's what Neron does, even to the most powerful angels, as you will see later. Asmodel realizes that he has lost, but mocks Zoriel and takes glee in knowing that his beloved is still in hell in the hands of Neron. He is then struck down by the Presence, and we see Asmodel at the mercy of Neron in hell. Asmodel asks him where he was when he needed his aid, and Neron says that of course he betrayed him, as he had learned his lesson during the last War in Heaven when he took Lucifer's side. As one final fuck you to Asmodel, he also returns Shannon to Zoriel, just because he knew it would be another torment for him. Classic Neron move. Now, I'm in somewhat of a strange position with this video because I'm about halfway done with my script and it's already 27 minutes long. So this is the first time I'm ever going to split a video into two parts. Later, we will see Asmodel come back again and attempt to gain his revenge on Neron and Heaven in general. I hope that some of you are starting to see some of the aspects of Neron that make him such an endearing and interesting character to me, and that you'll be willing to stick around for part 2. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you want to support me, please donate to me using the PayPal link in the description. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next one.